The marble floor of the Grand Marquis Hotel gleamed like black ice beneath my feet. Polished to such perfection I could see my reflection staring back. Distorted, wavering. Exactly how I felt inside. My arms ached from the weight of the floral arrangements, white peonies and blush roses threatening to slip from their boxes with every step. The cardboard corners dug into my palms hard enough to leave marks, but I welcomed that pain. Anything to distract from the panic crawling up my throat like poison ivy. 27 steps to the elevator bank. I'd counted them on my first delivery here, mapped my escape route like I'd learned to do everywhere since leaving him. The lobby stretched before me like something from a fever dream. Crystal chandeliers threw light around like confetti, catching on champagne flutes and diamond earrings. The air was thick with expensive cologne, and the cloying sweetness of my own arrangements. The massive centerpiece I'd spent 4 hours creating now, mocking me from its marble pedestal. My sneakers squeaked against that perfect floor, announcing my presence, marking me as someone who didn't belong. I kept my head down. 20 steps now. Service entrance blocked tonight because of water damage, the event coordinator had said with barely concealed annoyance. As if I'd chosen to walk through the main lobby in my dirt-smudged dress with soil still packed under my fingernails. Magnolia? The voice froze me mid-step. No, God, no, not here, not tonight. Magnolia Haynes, is that you? That cultured tenor, smooth as aged whiskey and just as burnin'. My stomach dropped through the floor. I didn't turn around. Maybe if I kept walking, maybe if I pretended not to hear. Sweetheart, I know you heard me. Footsteps behind me. Quick, determined, my pulse hammered so hard I could feel it in my teeth. 15 steps to the elevators, just 15 more steps. I walked faster, the flower boxes tilting dangerously. A peony tumbled free, hitting the marble with a soft, accusatory thud. Don't you dare ignore me. His hand clamped onto my shoulder, spinning me around with enough force that I nearly dropped everything. Adonis Moore looked exactly as he had 8 months ago when I'd finally escaped. Sandy hair swept back with too much product. Pale blue eyes that had once seemed kind, but now just looked hungry. He wore a tuxedo that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His bow tie slightly loosened like he'd been here for hours. The scent of his cologne, something woody and expensive, made my stomach turn. We need to talk, he said, loud enough that nearby guests turned to look. His smile was razor sharp. You can't just disappear for 8 months without explanation. 2 years together, and you won't even return my calls? Let go of me. My voice shook, hating myself for it. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. You owe me that much. His fingers tightened, not hard enough to bruise. Adonis was too smart for visible marks, but firm enough to communicate that I wasn't leaving until he allowed it. A woman in a sequined gown whispered to her companion, both of them watching us like we were dinner theater. You're making a scene, Adonis said, his voice dropping to that familiar disappointed tone that used to make me apologize for existing. Just come have a drink with me. Be reasonable, everyone's staring. The thing about Adonis was that he always made it seem like I was the problem. Like his control was actually concern, his possessiveness actually love. I'd spent 2 years believing that lie, not anymore. I twisted sharply, using the move Carmen had taught me in the self-defense class I'd taken the day after leaving him. His grip broke, surprise flashing across his face. The flower boxes listed dangerously, but I managed to steady them as I spun away. Magnolia! His shout echoed through the lobby, sharp with entitled rage. I ran, my sneakers slapped against marble as I lunged toward the elevators. Behind me, Adonis's footsteps gained ground. I could hear him calling after me, his voice shifting back to that syrupy sweetness designed for witnesses. "Sweetheart, please, don't be like this." The elevator bank appeared ahead like salvation. One set of doors was closing, that beautiful, narrowing gap of escape. I threw myself forward, shoulders slamming through the opening. "Hold it, please!" My body crashed through just as the doors began their final slide shut. I stumbled, catching myself against the elevator wall, gasping for breath. Safe. I was safe. Just polished wood and metal between us now, and then I could disappear through the service corridors and... I looked up. The elevator wasn't empty. A man stood in the corner, and everything about him screamed danger. He was tall, easily 6'2", with shoulders broad enough to block out the light. His charcoal suit was impeccably tailored, the kind of craftsmanship that cost thousands, but it couldn't hide what he was underneath. Dark hair swept back from a face all sharp angles and harder edges, but it was the tattoos that made my breath catch. Intricate black ink crawling up his neck from beneath his collar, disappearing into his hairline. Not the trendy kind you got in boutique shops. These were the kind that told stories. Dangerous stories. His eyes met mine, dark, penetrating, assessing me with the cold precision of someone who'd learned to identify threats in milliseconds. I pressed myself against the back wall, my flower boxes clutched against my chest like shields. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. The doors began to slide shut, and then Adonis's hand slammed against them, triggering the sensor. They reopened, revealing his face twisted with rage, barely contained beneath his society boy smile. "Magnolia," he said, stepping forward. "Get out here, now." The dangerous man in the elevator shifted, almost imperceptibly, and I realized I'd just traded one threat for something potentially far worse. The elevator doors hesitated, that terrible mechanical pause before reopening completely. Adonis's face appeared in the widening gap, his mask of charm cracking like porcelain. "Stop being dramatic," he hissed, reaching for my arm. "These people are staring." The tattooed stranger moved. One moment he was motionless in the corner. The next, he filled the elevator entrance like a storm wall, his body blocking Adonis with casual, absolute authority. The lady said no. 4 words. Quiet as a blade sliding from a sheath. Adonis froze, his hand suspended in mid-reach. I watched recognition flicker across his face. Not of the man specifically, but of what he represented, the way you recognize a wolf even if you've only seen dogs. "This is a private matter," Adonis said, but his voice had lost its commanding edge. "Between me and my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend." The words burst from me, emboldened by the barrier of expensive suit and controlled violence between us. "I left you 8 months ago, Adonis. I gave back your ring. I explained everything in my letter." "A letter?" He spat the word like it tasted rotten. 2 years together and you... The stranger's hand moved to the door close button. His other hand, I noticed the scarred knuckles, the silver rings that looked heavy enough to break bone, rested casually against the elevator frame. Blocking. Claiming territory. Walk away. His voice remained quiet, almost conversational. "While you still can." The threat lived in what he didn't say, in the stillness of his posture, the weight of his gaze, the absolute certainty that he could make Adonis disappear if he chose to. Adonis's face flushed red, then pale. His eyes darted between me and the stranger, calculating odds he clearly didn't like. "This isn't over, Magnolia." But he was already backing away, nearly stumbling over his own feet in his hurry to retreat. The doors slid shut with a soft, definitive thunk. Silence crashed over us like a wave. I sagged against the elevator wall, my legs suddenly too weak to support me. The flower boxes trembled in my grip. A rose petal drifted to the floor, impossibly red against polished wood. "Thank you," I managed, my voice shaking. "I'm sorry for dragging you into my Magnolia Haynes." My blood turned to ice water. He'd turned to face me fully now, and the elevator suddenly felt impossibly small. Those dark eyes cataloged every detail: my dirt-smudged dress, my trembling hands, the panic I couldn't quite hide. "Owner of Bloom and Thorn Florals," he continued, his accent carrying hints of old New York, the kind that suggested generations of roots. "Daughter of Martha Haynes. Studio apartment on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn." The flower boxes nearly slipped from my grip. "How do you know that?" "I make it my business to know things." He pressed a button, not the lobby, I noticed. Floor 12 continued glowing, especially when something beautiful catches my attention. "I don't understand." "The charity auction at the Riverside Club, 3 months ago." His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "You did the centerpieces. Garden roses mixed with Scottish thistles. Unusual combination." I remembered that job. Remembered choosing the thistles specifically, ignoring the coordinator's protests. "Beauty needs thorns to survive," my grandmother used to say. "You had me investigated because of a flower arrangement?" "I had you investigated because in my world, anything beautiful is either a threat or an opportunity." He shifted his weight, somehow making even that small movement seem predatory. Sometimes both. My heart hammered against my ribs. "What are you?" "Someone who can make your Adonis problem disappear." His eyes held mine, steady and unblinking. "Permanently." The word hung between us like smoke. "I don't want him dead," I whispered, horrified. "I just want him to leave me alone." "There are many ways to make people disappear, Magnolia. Death is the least creative." The elevator chimed softly. Floor 12. The doors remained closed. He reached into his jacket, I flinched, and withdrew a business card. Heavy stock, a simple text. "Edward Wallace," a phone number, nothing else. "I have a proposition for you," he said, pressing the card into my palm. His fingers were warm, steady, completely controlled. "One that benefits us both." "What kind of proposition?" "The kind where I protect you from men like him." Edward, if that was even his real name, leaned closer, his voice dropping to something almost intimate. "And you help me with a problem of my own." I don't understand what I could possibly be my fiancé. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Excuse me." "For 1 year, public appearances only. In return, Adonis Moore never bothers you again, and you receive capital to expand your struggling business." His expression remained perfectly neutral, like he was discussing the weather. $100,000, no strings attached, even if you walk away after the arrangement ends. My mind reeled. This was insane, completely insane. Why? The question barely made it past my lips. Because I need someone real. Something flickered in those dark eyes, not vulnerability exactly, but something close. Someone who doesn't want my money or my name. Someone who chose thorns with her roses because she understands that beauty without protection is just a target. The elevator remained frozen, suspended in this moment of impossible decision. "You have 24 hours." Edward pressed the lobby button, and the elevator lurched into motion. "After that, the offer expires. You handle your ex-boyfriend alone." The doors opened to the lobby. Beyond them, I could see the service corridor I'd been trying to reach all along. A black town car idled at the curb outside, visible through the glass doors. My driver will take you wherever you need to go, Edward said. No one will bother you leaving this hotel. You have my word. I stumbled out, clutching my flower boxes and his card like they were both equally likely to save or damn me. As the elevator doors began to close, I turned back. Why me? I asked again. Really? Edward's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Because when that door opened and you saw me, you were afraid. But you didn't run. You're stronger than you know, Magnolia, and I respect strength. The doors closed. I stood alone in the empty corridor, his card burning against my palm, and wondered if I'd just been rescued or claimed. My apartment smelled like eucalyptus and regret. I'd been staring at Edward Wallace's card for 18 hours, turning it over in my fingers until the corners softened. Around me, my studio apartment overflowed with the evidence of my small, hard-won life. Buckets of flowers in various stages of arrangement, my grandmother's recipe book open to her notes on symbolic meanings, pruning shears laid out like surgical instruments. You're actually considering this. Carmen didn't phrase it as a question. She sat cross-legged on my second-hand couch, her dark eyes tracking my pacing like I was a patient who might bolt. I don't know what I'm considering. Yes, you do. She gestured at the card I'd been clutching for the better part of a day. You're wondering if making a deal with a criminal is better than dealing with Adonis alone. The word hung heavy. Criminal. Because that's what Edward Wallace was, even if no one could prove it. I'd spent last night researching him instead of sleeping. Found business profiles that called him a real estate mogul and hospitality entrepreneur. Found other articles, buried deeper, that used words like alleged and suspected and connection to organized crime. Found absolutely nothing that stuck. Edward Wallace was either legitimate or terrifyingly good at appearing that way. He offered me $100,000, Carmen. Blood money. Business capital. I stopped pacing, facing her. Do you know how long it would take me to save that? 5 years, maybe 6, if everything goes perfectly, which it never does. And what does he get? A pretty face to parade around while he does whatever it is men like that do? I thought about his words in the elevator. Someone real. Someone who doesn't want my money or my name. I think he gets cover, I said slowly, working it out as I spoke. Legitimacy. A respectable girlfriend makes a man look stable, trustworthy, less like someone the FBI should investigate. Carmen's expression shifted to something sadder. And you get to be complicit in whatever he's hiding. She was right. I knew she was right. My phone buzzed, unknown number, but I knew who it was before I even looked. Time's running out, Magnolia. Yes or no? My thumb hovered over the screen. This was insane, dangerous. Everything my mother would have warned me about if she were still alive. Everything my grandmother would have called dancing with the devil. But I was so tired. Tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of barely scraping by, tired of being afraid. I typed back, yes, but I have conditions. The response came within seconds. My penthouse. Tonight at 8. We'll discuss terms. Carmen's groan told me she'd been reading over my shoulder. Mags, I know. I turned to face her, needing her to understand. I know this is crazy. But Adonis isn't going away. He found me at the hotel. He'll find me at the next event and the one after that. His family has money and lawyers and connections. What do I have? You have me. You have your talent. You have nothing. The word came out harder than I intended. I have nothing that scares men like him. But Edward Wallace? Adonis was terrified of him. Actually terrified. For the first time in 8 months, I saw Adonis afraid instead of me. Carmen stood, pulling me into a hug that smelled like her lavender perfume and felt like home. "If you do this," she whispered against my hair, "I'm checking on you every single day. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you call me. Promise." I promise. But as I released her, I wondered what wrong would feel like in Edward Wallace's world. The building in Tribeca looked like old money converted to new purpose. A warehouse transformed into luxury, all exposed brick and steel beams. The doorman knew my name before I gave it. "Mr. Wallace is expecting you, Miss Haynes." Penthouse level. The elevator, different from the hotels, but elevators would always make me think of Edward now, rose smoothly. My reflection in the polished steel doors showed a woman trying to look brave, in a simple navy dress and her grandmother's pearl earrings, armor of a different kind. The doors opened directly into the penthouse. I'd expected cold minimalism, a bachelor's sterile showcase. Instead, I found warmth. Exposed brick walls lined with bookshelves actually filled with books, their spines cracked from reading. Art that looked collected over time rather than bought by a decorator. A worn leather couch positioned to catch afternoon light from floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. And Edward, standing by those windows in dark jeans and a black Henley that revealed the full extent of his tattoos. They crawled up his neck, disappeared into his sleeves, a story written in ink across dangerous skin. He turned as I entered, and something in his expression shifted. Not quite a smile, but warmer than the cold assessment from the elevator. "You came. You knew I would. I hoped." He gestured to a dining table where 2 wine glasses sat beside an actual contract, multiple pages thick. But hope and certainty are different things. Wine? I probably shouldn't. Probably not. But he poured anyway, a generous glass of something red that caught light like rubies. "For courage, then, we're negotiating your terms." I approached the table slowly, hyper-aware of his presence filling the space. This close, I could see details I'd missed in the elevator's dim lighting. A thin scar along his jawline, silver threading through his dark hair at the temples, the way his tattoos included dates and initials. Memorials, I realized. People he'd lost. The contract sat between us like a challenge. "You actually had this drawn up," I said, surprised despite myself. "I don't make offers I'm not prepared to honor." He remained standing, giving me space to read. "Look it over. Change anything that makes you uncomfortable." I picked up the pages, expecting dense legal language designed to trap. Instead, I found remarkable clarity. 1-year arrangement. Public appearances as designated. Private living situations maintained separately unless mutually agreed. $100,000 transferred upon signing. No repayment required, regardless of arrangement completion. Either party may terminate with 30 days' notice. "This is too generous," I said finally. "You're giving me an escape route. Because I don't need to trap you, Magnolia." He moved closer, not touching, but I felt the heat of him anyway. "If you want to leave, you'll leave. But while you're mine, while you're under my protection, no one touches you. No one threatens you. No one makes you afraid. While you're mine." The possessive should have terrified me. Instead, something low in my stomach tightened with an emotion I didn't want to name. "What about the danger?" I forced myself to ask. "You said yourself, in your world, beautiful things are threats or opportunities. What happens when your enemies decide I'm an opportunity?" His expression hardened, something cold and absolutely lethal flickering behind his eyes. "Then they learn what it costs to touch what belongs to me." The words should have sounded like a threat. Instead, they felt like a promise. I picked up the pen. Okay, but wait. Are you reading this at 2 a.m. when you should be sleeping? Hiding your phone under your desk at work? Pretending to listen to your friend's story while secretly scrolling? Drop a comment and tell me where in the world you're watching. Magnolia make possibly the best or worst decision of her life. And if you're already imagining yourself in that Tribeca penthouse with a tattooed Mafia boss offering you protection and 100K, hit that subscribe button because Chapter 4 is about to get spicy. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens at their first public appearance. Let's just say, someone's about to learn that Magnolia has thorns of her own. Comment your location. Plus, subscribe. You get Chapter 4. See you in the next one, if you dare. The ring felt like a shackle made of starlight. 3 carats of flawless diamond caught the restaurant's low lighting, throwing fragments of rainbow across the white tablecloth. Edward had slipped it onto my finger an hour ago in the back of his town car, his touch clinical, professional, like sealing a business merger. Which, I supposed, was exactly what this was. Smile, he murmured now, his hand finding the small of my back as we navigated through Ariel's dining room. You're supposed to be in love with me. I was supposed to be a lot of things tonight. In love. Comfortable. Confident enough to belong in a restaurant where the wine list required a sommelier, and every other woman wore jewelry that cost more than my yearly rent. The dress Edward had sent over helped. Midnight blue silk that moved like water, fitted perfectly despite him never asking my size. Another reminder that he'd had me investigated, that he knew things about me I'd never told him. There he is. Edward's voice dropped lower, his thumb tracing small circles against my spine. The gesture looked intimate, protective. I wondered if he practiced these things or if manipulation came naturally to men like him. Victor Castellano, the man we're here to impress. I followed his gaze to a corner table where a silver-haired man in his 60s held court, flanked by younger associates who laughed too loud at his jokes. Power in a custom suit, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. Why him? I whispered. Because he controls the Harbor Commission, and because his daughter is getting married next month. Edward's hand slid to my hip, drawing me closer as we approached. Smile, Magnolia. You're about to become the most sought-after florist in New York. The introduction happened in a blur of firm handshakes and practiced charm. Edward transformed before my eyes, his dangerous edges smoothing into something almost respectable. Almost. The violence still lived beneath his expensive cologne and easy smile, visible to anyone who knew how to look. Castellano, Edward said, his voice warm with false friendship, I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Magnolia Haynes. The word still felt foreign, wrong, like wearing someone else's skin. Victor's eyes assessed me with the cold precision of someone used to evaluating assets. Magnolia, Edward's been keeping you a secret. Not a secret. Edward pulled out my chair with practiced gallantry. Just private. You understand. Indeed. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. And what is it you do, my dear? I'm a florist. The words came out steadier than I felt. I own Blumenthorn Florals in Brooklyn. A businesswoman, how refreshing. But his tone suggested I was anything but. Most of Edward's previous companions were more decorative. The barb landed exactly where intended. I felt Edward tense beside me, his hand finding my knee beneath the table. Steadying. Warning. Magnolia's work is extraordinary, Edward said, his voice carrying an edge now. She did the arrangements for the Riverside Club benefit last fall. Perhaps you noticed them? Recognition flickered across Victor's face. The roses and thistles. Yes, I remember. Unusual. My wife couldn't stop talking about them. Your wife has excellent taste. I leaned forward slightly, finding my footing. Beauty needs protection to survive. That's what the thistles represent. Something shifted in Victor's expression. Not quite approval, but interest. An interesting philosophy for a florist. An essential one for a woman. The words came before I could stop them. Honest in a way this evening wasn't supposed to be. Beautiful things get crushed if they're not careful. Silence stretched between us, heavy with meaning I couldn't quite name. Then Victor laughed, genuine this time. I like her, Wallace. She's got spine. He lifted his wine glass in salute. Tell me, Magnolia, my daughter Sophia is getting married in June. Think you could create something memorable for her wedding? My heart stuttered. This was it, the real reason we were here. Edward's hand tightened on my knee, pleased but warning me not to seem too eager. I'd be honored, I said carefully, though I'd need to meet with Sophia first. Understand her vision. Of course. Victor pulled out his phone. I'll have my assistant set something up. This could be the beginning of a beautiful partnership. Partnership. The word echoed Edward's earlier promise, wrapped in money and influence and strings I couldn't yet see. As Victor returned his attention to his associates, Edward leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. Perfect, he murmured. You're a natural at this. But I wasn't sure if he meant the business negotiation or the lie we were selling. Maybe in his world they were the same thing. The ring caught the light again, heavy with promises and threats in equal measure. I was in too deep to turn back now. The town car's leather seats smelled like money and secrets. Edward sat beside me in silence, his phone casting blue light across his face as we glided through Manhattan's late-night streets. The evening had stretched into midnight. Dinner with Victor, followed by drinks with his associates, then a carefully choreographed exit where Edward's hand never left my body, claiming, displaying, making sure everyone knew exactly who I belonged to now. The ring felt heavier with each passing hour. You did well tonight. Edward's voice cut through the quiet without looking up from his screen. Victor's assistant already emailed. Sophia wants to meet you tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow. The word landed like a stone. That's fast. That's how these things work. Strike while you're impressive. He pocketed his phone finally, turning to face me. In the darkness, his tattoos looked like shadows crawling across his skin. The wedding's at the plaza. 500 guests, unlimited budget. This is your chance, Magnolia. My chance, bought with a fake engagement and $100,000 I hadn't earned yet, paid for with lies I was only beginning to understand how to tell. What happens when they find out? The question escaped before I could stop it. When someone realizes we're not real? His mouth curved into something too sharp to be a smile. Who's going to tell them? You? Me? We're the only ones who know the truth. Carmen knows. Carmen is your friend. She'll keep your secrets. He shifted closer, and the car suddenly felt smaller. Besides, what makes you think this isn't real? We have a contract, a ring, public appearances. How is that different from half the marriages in this city? Because we don't. I stopped, heat flooding my cheeks. Love each other? Edward finished, his voice dropping lower. Love is a liability, Magnolia. It makes people careless, desperate. Look at your Adonis. He loved you, in his way. And what did that get either of you? The comparison stung because it wasn't entirely wrong. Adonis had claimed to love me while controlling every aspect of my life. At least, Edward was honest about what this was. The car pulled up to my building, the familiar brownstone looking shabby next to the town car's polished gleam. Edward's driver, a silent man named Marcus, who I suspected carried a gun, opened my door. "I'll pick you up at noon tomorrow," Edward said, not moving to follow. "Wear something sophisticated but approachable. Sophia's 24 and apparently has opinions about everything." I should have just said goodnight, should have climbed out and gone back to my small, honest life that didn't involve diamonds and dangerous men. Instead, I turned back. Earlier, when Victor asked about your previous companions, forget what he said. Were they all fake too, the other women? Something flickered across Edward's face, too quick to name. Some were business arrangements. Others were... He paused, choosing words carefully. Mistakes. Women who thought they could handle my world and learned too late they couldn't. What happened to them? Nothing dramatic. They walked away with generous parting gifts and signed NDAs. His eyes met mine, dark and unreadable. I don't hurt women, Magnolia. I protect them, even when they need protecting from me. The admission hung between us, more honest than anything he'd said all night. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked, and because I don't want you afraid of the wrong things. He reached out, his fingers brushing the ring on my hand. The women who got hurt were the ones who started believing the lie, who confused the arrangement for something more. Don't make that mistake. The warning was clear. Don't fall for him. Don't forget this is business. But his touch lingered a moment too long, and I wondered if he was reminding me or himself. I climbed out of the car without another word, Marcus closing the door behind me with a soft final click. The town car disappeared into the night, leaving me alone on my dark street with a diamond on my finger and Edward's warning echoing in my head. My apartment felt too empty. Too quiet. I'd lived here for 8 months since leaving Adonis, proud of my independence, grateful for space that belonged only to me. Tonight, it just felt lonely. I was pulling off the ring. It left a pale band on my finger, already marking me when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. But I knew better now. Sleep well, Magnolia. Tomorrow, you meet the bride. Remember, you're doing this for yourself, not for me. That's what makes it work. I stared at the message for a long time, trying to decode what he meant, trying to understand why a man who'd spent the evening treating me like a possession would remind me this was my choice. My phone buzzed again, but this time the number wasn't unknown. I saw you tonight at Oriole. With him. What the hell are you doing, Magnolia? Adonis. My blood turned to ice water. He'd been there, watching. I hadn't seen him, too focused on playing my role, too careful about impressing Victor. The phone rang, Adonis calling. I declined it. It rang again immediately. We need to talk. That man is dangerous. I'm trying to protect you. The irony would have been funny if my hands weren't shaking. Adonis, who'd spent 2 years controlling me, now claiming protection. Adonis, who'd never let me have my own phone password, suddenly concerned for my safety. The phone rang a third time. This time, I answered. "Stop calling me." "Magnolia, sweetheart, please listen." His voice had that familiar pleading tone, the one that used to make me apologize. "Edward Wallace is not who you think he is. He's connected to the Moretti family. Do you understand what that means?" The Moretti family. Even I'd heard of them. Old New York crime, the kind that had survived generations by being smarter and more brutal than anyone else. "I know what I'm doing," I said, trying to sound certain. "Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're being used." That man doesn't care about you. He's using you for something, and when he's done— Like you used me? The words came out harder than intended. At least Edward's honest about what this is. This is different. I loved you. You controlled me. There's a difference. I moved to my window, looking out at the street where Edward's car had been. We're done, Adonis. Stay away from me. I can't do that, not when you're in danger. The only danger I was ever in came from you. I ended the call, blocked his number, and stood there shaking. My phone buzzed one more time. A new number. He'd borrowed someone else's phone. Ask your fiancé about the fire at the Riverside Club 5 years ago. Ask him what happened to Vincent Moretti, then decide if you still feel safe. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. Vincent Moretti. I'd heard that name before, in one of the articles I'd found during my research. A crime boss who'd died in a fire at his own social club. The case had never been solved. 5 years ago. Around the same time, Edward had started his legitimate business expansion. My hands found the business card Edward had given me, still on my bedside table. Just his name and number, nothing else. Like the man himself. Surface details hiding something much darker beneath. I should call Carmen, should tell her about Adonis's warning, about the Moretti connection, about the fear creeping up my spine like frost. Instead, I looked at the contract I'd signed, at the $100,000 already deposited in my account. At the meeting tomorrow with Sofia Castellano that could change everything for my business. Edward had warned me. The women who got hurt were the ones who confused the arrangement for something more. But what about the women who got hurt because they ignored the danger entirely? I lay awake until dawn, the ring sitting on my nightstand like an accusation, Adonis's message burning behind my eyes. What happened to Vincent Moretti? And more importantly, what would happen to me if I asked?